Running around all the time in your mind, but you're not free. I see you want to be grounded, grounded like thee. He is the vine and we are the branches. Understand that this is all about authority. You can be free. You can overcome. We always doing His will.
Amen.
We always doing His will.
Amen, amen, amen. Welcome, 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 welcome as you take your seats to the You Can Overcome show. Yes, it's 2018, and everywhere you turn, no matter what news channel you turn on, no matter what entertainment program, people are talking about resolutions, New Year's resolutions. So you're here tonight because you're interested in changing. A resolution is something you want to change, something you want to improve in. Well, we want you to know that there's no accident that you're here tonight. Even if you're brand new, you just heard about this, somebody sent you a link, you saw a book written by Gwen Shamblin, and you decided, you know what, I've got to make some changes. I got to lose some weight. I've got to put that down. I've got to put down that bad habit. Well, we are here to tell you that this is the place where you're going to find the answers. This is the place that's got an answer for all of it. Anything. And no, our founder, the founder of this ministry, church, Gwen Shamblin, she's not on stage tonight, but she had this fantastic idea to kick off season 13 by letting everyone know that Weigh Down is for literally everybody. It's not just for the ladies. It's not just for young people. It's for the guys too. And I can tell you that Ted Ange, David Martin, nearly 20 years knowing Gwen and in this ministry, we can tell you, yes, we have lost weight. It's changed our marriages. It's changed our families. It's changed our finances. But we want to make sure that you, especially those of you who are brand new, or maybe you've just come back to Weigh Down after 10, 15, 20 years, that it's going stronger than ever before. And we want to take you all the way back to the basics and let you meet not just Ted and I, but several men tonight that are going to testify that this works and it is permanent.
It is. Amen to that. Have we not all changed from what we're hearing here? So if you're not getting tweets right now from Gwen Shamblin, you need to jump on Twitter right now. Sign up an account. It takes 2 seconds. If you don't have one, put your email in there and come up with a password. You're on. And then if you just put Gwen Shamblin in there and say, add me on, and I want to follow her, you're going to get the most encouraging tweets, videos that she's filming every week with weight loss tips and encouragement. And it's not just on Twitter, but it's also on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, follow Gwen Shamblin. But anyway, these are practical. Not only are they convicting and charging and encouraging, but there are practical tips throughout the day. You're not going to want to miss them. So there's a lot going on to help everybody out here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, again, say you're brand new or you're coming back and it's been a long time, you don't remember all the principles of Weigh Down. You're sitting there wondering, okay, Weigh Down. Okay, obviously losing weight, down, okay, that makes sense. But what is it? What is Weigh Down? How does it work? Well, fortunately, we've got a video to show you tonight where you'll get to meet the founder herself, Gwen Shamblin, and she'll explain in just a few minutes the basics of what is Weigh Down and how does it work. Take a look.
Welcome to Weigh Down, the pioneer of faith-based weight loss. This educational seminar is based on reliable nutritional facts. Weigh Down was established at the height of dieting, calorie counting, and exercising as the answer to permanent weight loss. And therefore, in the beginning, it was considered revolutionary.
Our guest tonight is Gwen Shamblin. She is founder of the Weigh Down Workshop. It's great to have her with us. She is a registered dietitian.
My program's about the desire.
As you know, we're always in search of a diet that really works. And right now, a phenomenal movement is sweeping this country.
What we're talking about is a choice.
She believes that through faith you can lose the pounds that you can't seem to get rid of any other way. We're teaching people stop dieting and go to God.
It became accepted first by the population because it just worked. People were losing weight left and right.
11,700 pounds.
This is truly a power that is not seen anywhere else. Is that true, guys?
They've lost over 20,000 pounds.
It is tested and tried and true, and it has widespread acceptance.
Come on out, Gwen Shamblin.
3 years ago, Andy Sarles and his wife Maggie each weighed around 500 pounds, but together they are now 551 pounds lighter, and they credit Gwen Shamblin's faith-based diet book, The Weigh Down Diet.
This long-standing, permanent weight loss program has testimonies that have kept their weight off.
25 pounds, 10 years.
30 pounds, 10 years.
80 pounds, 10 years.
50 pounds, 10 years.
143 pounds, almost 11 years.
No other program has the knowledge and the materials on how to get the complicated and emotional human being to change his or her behavior, to end years of binge eating, grazing, bulimia, binge drinking, dieting, and all the behaviors of an overeater, and turn them toward thin eating. Weigh Down can work for any age, any denomination, any race, or any creed. The truths are universal to all religions, because it's not about religion, it's about a relationship with God. It's about transferring a relationship with the food over to a relationship with your Creator. Do not give up on yourself. Just because you've been dieting and unsuccessful, it doesn't mean that you can't do this. You were born to do this. When you get the truth is going to set you permanently free. Weigh Down is the answer that you've been looking for.
65 pounds.
70.
55.
68.
30 pounds.
35. 80 pounds.
25. 45.
30.
50 pounds.
This is the place for permanent weight loss. Praise God.
You know it works. Let's get you started today. Get ready to lose weight forever with Weigh Down All Access. With Weigh Down All Access, you will have the ability to watch any of Weigh Down's life-changing classes on demand anytime. Download all your class workbooks and materials for free. When you join, you also will have a weight loss accountability partner assigned to you. Get direct access to TruthStream, a library of hundreds of inspiring talks on topics including weight loss, parenting, marriage, as well as how to overcome depression and anxiety. 24/7 radio station with music to keep you focused up. Continuous updated content from Weigh Down founder Gwen Shamblin. All of this for just $24.99 a month. For more information, visit weightdown.com or call 1-800-844-5208. Join the weight loss revolution. Join Weigh Down All Access today.
Who's ready to get started? Praise God. We have an opportunity to hear from some men who've been permanently changed here to get us started. We'll start with Chris Borman.
Hey, good evening. My name is Chris Borman. I live here locally. God has taken off 75 pounds, and it's been off for 13 years. I would just encourage, if you're new to this message, or if you're returning, I face this same question every year. I got to do something different. And nothing ever worked. But when I made the choice to follow what I was being taught here, then the weight came off, and I got a whole new life. You can do it. Make the right choice in 2018, and you'll never have to make it again.
Hi, my name is Larry Sims. And before Weigh Down, I tried all the diets. And I would lose weight, but it was always temporary, never permanent. I would gain the weight back. Since starting Weigh Down, I've lost 40 pounds and kept it off for 15 years.
Hi, my name is Terrell Cohen. 2.5 years ago, God led me to Weigh Down with my family, and helped me to lose over 100 pounds. My wife has lost that. My kids have lost a number, 50 or more pounds each. And everything in our family changed. Our finances changed. We don't look the same, sound the same, talk the same, dress the same. So if you're looking for change in 2018, and that's what you're actually looking for, you couldn't be in a better place, because nothing in my life looks the way it did before. Praise God. but we're so excited for everything that Gwen and Weigh Down has done for our family.
Hello, my name is Tim Purdy. I'm originally from Indiana. I've lost 25 pounds, kept it off for almost 5 years now. And one thing is for sure is that Weigh Down does work for men. It is absolute truth. Weigh Down has not only released me of the 25 pounds, but I'm a much better husband, a much better parent. I am able to love others, don't get stressed out, don't have control, and I'm just so in love with God, and I just praise God for Gwen Shamblin and Weigh Down.
Hello, Tony Duncan here locally here in Brentwood, and lost 33 pounds 7 years ago, and actually started Weigh Down not to lose weight, but just to learn more about what's in the Bible. And 4 weeks later, I had lost 33 pounds. That then allowed me to, just that one concept, hunger and fullness, then allowed me to lay down over drinking like that, which then allowed me to be a better father to my kids, a better husband to my wife. And so I just, in closing here, I would say that if you feel like you've already got a relationship with God and you want to go further in that, or if you feel like you're lost or you're looking for something or you're missing something, Weigh Down is and has the answer.
I'm Jeff Feeder from Franklin, Tennessee. I've lost 38 pounds. I've had it off for 10 years. Along with the weight, I have laid down anger and depression, recreational drug use, and the only reason that I have lost weight and I've done this is I put these principles into practice. And if you do that, if you put these into practice, these principles that you are taught here, the fruit is obvious. Praise God for Weigh Down Ministries, and thank you.
My name is Michael Ormaza, and I lost 40 pounds 13 years ago and have kept it off since then without yo-yoing, without special dieting, without special workout programs. I was desperate. I had been overweight as long as I could remember, and nothing worked. And I just remember seeking and just praying, God help me. And I found the Weigh Down workshop and did Weigh Down. And it was the first program that helped me with what was going on in my heart and in my mind, as well as my physical body. And it completely healed me spiritually, it healed me physically, and it was the only thing that worked. And now, before all my life was consumed thinking about food, thinking about calories, thinking about fat grams, thinking about my body, thinking about how my body looked. My day and my life was consumed with that. And now I don't think about food every day. I don't think about calories. I don't have to think about my body. And I've stayed this way for over 13 years now. Also, with the same principles taught in Weigh Down, laid down smoking, recreational drug use, just things inside the heart that I knew were not right before God, and just was able to lay all of that down and have a completely new and blessed life.
Awesome. Wow. Okay, so that's just kind of a little preview. In about 1 minute each, you met 7 different men with whom probably the vast majority of you out there have at least one thing in common. One of those addictions, one of those bad habits, one of those sins they were holding on to. So again, proof that this is for everybody, all ages, no matter what your background is, no matter what country you live in. So that was just a little taste. So we're gonna dive a little deeper now with our 2 main guests for this evening, and have deeper conversation and get into more of the basics, the how-to. What worked for these guys? What seminar really kickstarted it for them? What book did they read? What words from Gwen kickstarted them and has kept them going? So please, let's dig a little deeper and meet Mr. Kent Smith and Mr. Adam Barnhart.
You can be free, you can overcome, you can overcome. 'cause they're free and be seen for eternity with our God and His Son Jesus. Everything
That was a great way to start.
Yeah.
Was that lineup not awesome, guys? I mean, just, I think just everyone's going to be very encouraged after tonight, but I will tell you that if you knew those men when they first found this ministry, and then if you knew the impact that it's had on their entire family and all the changes, as David said, it's really hard to go through all the changes in your life. But for today, the focus is on how we found this ministry and how it helped us lose weight permanently, which then, of course, led into an avalanche of other change. But to give everyone hope, as Chris Borman was saying, I knew I had to do something different. Every year I got to that point, I knew I wanted my life to change. And I know we all want to encourage you guys that we promise you that if you will jump into one of these classes and put these principles into practice, you will be up here one day, jumping up here going, I cannot believe that I've been set free from this. It is the most amazing thing, and every year we get to witness that. But the stories are amazing, they're powerful, they're convicting, they're encouraging, and so why don't we get started with you, Mr. Adam?
Amen, thank you very much. First of all, it would be remiss for me not to give all glory to God. Just very, very honored to be up here right now and get to share my testimony with anybody who is new, who anybody is struggling, or have never even heard of Weigh Down at all. So I do praise God very much for being up here. So much credit to God and Weigh Down in my life, especially when I think back on the timeline of when I got started in this, and God has allowed me since then, since the very beginning, to lay down greed for food and a lot of other things, but really about 75 pounds of weight and greed have come off, and I've kept it off for close to 9 years now. And it really started for me. I remember the greed in my heart that I had really started about the time that I could make my own decisions. So my parents in high school were giving me more freedom, and I really took advantage of that. And so everything, I can honestly say everything good in my life came from when I started Weigh Down in Remnant Fellowship Church. And it was about the time that started that I could make my own decisions. And I say that with so much respect and honor for my parents, because they tried to get me to listen. Right. But I had so much pride and so much greed in my heart that I thought I was going to be able to do conquer this world on my own, everything. So I really started in high school gaining weight really fast when I was about the age of 16 or 17, and that snowballed and escalated when I went to college and right after college. And my lovely wife, Corey, found Weigh Down in 1999, and I was still going to school, even though I had been there for about 5 years and in college. So I had about a year left, and she found Weigh Down, and she rapidly started to change. And her and I have known each other since we were in 4th grade. So I've known everything about her for as long as I can remember, and I could see the changes that were very apparent, whether it was weight or just the peace and love. And I knew, and it clicked, that whatever she was doing with Weigh Down started in 1999, and I started taking Weigh Down classes in 2008. But about 2 years before that is when Corey started hosting classes in our home. And I would sit in and I would listen, and I was always kind of in the background. And then it wasn't long after that she said, why don't we start splitting food? Will you split a meal with me? Sure, I'll split a meal with you. I've heard that somewhere before. So that's really where it started for me. I started splitting meals with Corey, and the weight just started pouring off. And, it was 5 pounds, 10 pounds. And I had a lot of praise of man at that time. So I was getting a lot of feedback from people that was puffing me up at the time, So my parents, friends, coworkers, everybody's like, you're losing so much weight, you look great. And then I wasn't giving all the credit due because I was kind of riding the coattails of Corey and the principles. So my heart wasn't being molded, and I wasn't changing inside, but I was physically changing outside. And I really truly believe that God dangled that carrot out in front of me to keep me going. And so it was in 2009, and I had, I'll call it sat in on Treasure Series, and I had, by 2010, I had taken Weigh Down Advanced, and I kept going back to the Exodus Out of Egypt Change series. And that class is when I learned that this is solely about greed for food. And it is so apparent that Gwen lays it out that greed for food is idolatry. And, now you're talking about I'm learning more about my salvation. And the Bible's opened up to me. And I had a lot of first things that were going on in my life, answered prayers. I'd never had an answered prayer before. And, just things are changing in my life, and I noticed all these blessings. So the weight was the tip of the iceberg, and it was kind of what got me started, cutting my food in half. And then once I took that Change Series class, and I heard things, Gwen in there talks about very visual things that stick in my mind. The flaming arrows, that everything is a test and it comes and you've got to, really dig in and battle onward, and, that everything in your life, God sees and it's on a Jumbotron, so all of these things are what keep me going a little bit now these days, all these visual aspects. But what solely hit me was, okay, just very practical stuff that I could apply every single day. So Weigh Down basics. Okay, I know I need to pray before I eat. Okay, that slows me down personally and prepares my heart and my mind to get ready to eat. And small plates. And, just going in and making sure that every single hour of every day that I am battling this greed. Well, when you do that, it ends up being, like Gwen talks about, just the self-denial of every decision is something that then just becomes second nature every day. So, but it really started out because I was so full of pride. I was so full of greed. I had never heard of self-denial. That was the farthest thing from my radar. Yeah, I'm not going to deny myself. I do what I want when I want to do it. And once I started to realize that self-denial leads to happiness, so I have more energy, I have more peace in my heart, I have more love, all the things that I had been yearning for so long in my life, that even Gwen says that everything started with one bite. And these little, nuances that Gwen talks about, these are the things that stick in my head, and they all come from the classes. I'm not saying anything that, she hasn't said already, but it just sticks in my head. And that self-denial piece, for me, has to be hour by hour. And it started out like that, and it still is to this day. So how many times did I walk through the refrigerator back in the old days and just open it for no reason at all? But in Weigh Down, she teaches you, okay, are you really, truly waiting for a growl? Something else that sticks in my mind that Gwen said is, that's your communication from God. Yeah. That he's talking to you, that you're hungry. His body is ready to eat. And so, if I was tempted to open the refrigerator, self-denial, self-control, no, I'm not hungry, shut it. Move on, go do something else. Get in the homework. The homework is key for me as well. So if I open the refrigerator, I know I've got head hunger. I know, there's temptation there, and I know that if I pass this test, there's fruit on the other end. So I shut the refrigerator, I go do homework. Or, if you're driving down the road and every corner has a fast food restaurant on there and a Big Mac sounds great, or Taco Bell or whatever, it would be really easy for me to just pull in and grab something and go. But, the big Jumbotron is up there and I'm not even hungry, I'm not growling. Self-control, save the money, stay within God's boundaries, move on, plug in, at that time, a lot of CDs, but, right. Plug in and hear the truth. So just constantly, the very, very early years, it was a lot of homework, a lot of plugging in, a lot of taking the classes and just being involved. And as Gwen has said up here, if you have to hear it first. Mm-hmm. So if I'm talking to anybody out there at all, I truly believe that God has you listening to this for a reason. Mm-hmm. So there you are in the place that you're supposed to be because God has you here. And so much change, the word change has been talked about tonight, but this is a total transformation of the heart. And it is a total new molding of any stronghold. For me, it was weight and alcohol, recreational drugs. There was so much, under that umbrella that it's all gone. Yeah. Like it's all gone. Like I have none of it. I have no desires anymore. I have all the tools to pass my tests. So you start out one person and then God just totally molds you like a piece of clay. Mm-hmm. And once you get to the point you're like, all that's behind me. Like, and it's a long road, but it's doable. I think so many people think they can't change. Yeah. They're just in a cycle and they can never get out of it. And it's not true. You can do a complete 180 today and you can lay down whatever it is. Mr. Ted, I've heard you say it's a choice. Mm. It really is a choice. And you can choose to do something different right now. So I'm extremely grateful for a whole new life, a new body, new looks, new marriage, finances, kids. Everything about my life has changed just because of a Weigh Down class that I took 8 years ago and started cutting my food in half. I mean, it was just, I jumped in, I did it. I laid down pride for a minute to get involved with my wife. And I'm very, very grateful. I wouldn't be standing up here. I don't even know if I would be alive. I'd be extremely overweight, extremely depressed. And I'm not. Like I'm
definitely not.
Yeah, I'm loving this life. This life is amazing. The excitement, the joy you have every single day when you get up to just be in his boundaries and do God's will. And you go through your day loving and obedience. Like those are the two words that just run through my mind all day. Love and obedience. Obedience, self-control, self-denial. Love the appreciation. Be thankful for everything that we've got. So I'm extremely grateful. I'm sorry.
No,
rambled.
Please. You can keep listening to that, right? Oh my goodness. Awesome. That's a new creation, and yeah, no, we can listen to that all night. So, but we'll go on to Kent now and share about your changes.
Well, like Adam and everyone else that was up here, very honored to be able to talk about this place, this ministry. A lot of people call it a program, but that God has used to change my life, and it is a, as we all would agree, we would rather see Gwen up here right now talking and sharing, but it's also encouraging to see the fruit of what God has born in people's lives and of the teaching that he's placed in her heart that she's been faithful to deliver. And so my story starts back, I'll take it back several years. That shortly after my wife, Regina, and I got married, within a few years, both she and I started gaining weight quickly, as a lot of young couples might do. And then after, our first was born, Jacqueline, and Regina was gaining weight with the pregnancy, and so was I. It's what happens. You just start eating, and you don't pay attention, and you because nobody's trained you to do anything that is remotely godly with all areas of your life. Mm-hmm. That's the best way to say it. This Weigh Down ministry teaching is for all areas of your life, and we heard that before, but I just didn't know any better, didn't even think about it. And pretty soon it gets to the point where, you're uncomfortable, and so you start trying all these different diets, right? And so, I tried about everything that was out there, thinking that I was going to be a supporting husband, right? So I was going to, support my wife, and so we did all this crazy stuff, the different weight loss programs. We did some other ones, maybe temporary success, but it never was long-lasting ever. Then tried the cabbage soup diet. Y'all remember that?
Goodness.
That's horrible.
Just for the smell, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that one just for the smell.
Horrible.
I couldn't.
Yeah. I know other people out there. I've heard people up here on the stage say they tried the cabbage soup diet. It's horrible. We did that.
So you're trying to lose weight and you're torturing yourself.
Yeah, at the same time. It goes hand in hand. We did, the low carb, no carb. Regina and I did the whole. Remember back in the fin craze and all that.
Yeah.
We did that. We basically were trying to lose weight, and like I said, it was momentary success, but then you were never changing the heart, and so nothing ever really changed. You just went back. If not, lost, gained all the weight that you lost. And so, in 1999, I think I'm getting all my dates correct. In 1999, Regina took her first Weigh Down class. It was 19 years ago, about this time, right after the change of the year. And then she coordinated her first class shortly after that. And like Adam and like probably you guys, I was seeing changes in her, losing weight, different outlook on life, different attitude, everything. So I thought, well, there must be something to what's going on. I tried all these other silly, ridiculous things. I'll do the Weigh Down class. And so I took my first class in 2000, and that was the Exodus out of Egypt, the Exodus out of Egypt class, before it became the Change series, the original. Did that, and immediately lost some weight, and did class again. So in the first, a little over a year, lost 40 pounds. And so I immediately saw the benefit of that, and a lot of other things were changing, of course. Then as we talked about, as everyone knows, and then Gwen also had established the Remnant Fellowship Church, and we started getting involved with that as well, and became members of that. And after several years, Gwen kept coming out with new series. God keeps birthing things, laying out of her heart. After the Exodus out of Egypt, I did strongholds, and lost a little bit more weight there, and then she did the last Exodus, and then there's breakthrough, and it goes on, and revolution, just goes on. Everything, and then the latest this year, the Great Exposure at the end of last year. So everything is covered, but what happened with me is I plateaued for a couple of years thinking that, I've lost 40 pounds, everything's okay. And then I got convicted that maybe I wasn't applying all the principles correctly. And so I decided, well, I'm gonna cut back a little more. Or I'm gonna deny myself, like Adam was talking about, I'm gonna deny myself that nighttime snack before I go to bed. Or I'm gonna stop snacking between meals, mindlessly eating. All things that we're taught here, all things that if you put into practice, you will succeed, and it'll fit your life. And so I started doing that, just cutting back here and there, and lost 20 more pounds. So that was a total of 60 pounds, little over 14 years that it's been completely off. We're never going back, and I know that we can all say that. And the keys for me, I've said how I lost the weight was, as Adam said, cutting the food in half, not mindlessly eating, thinking about everything. One thing that Weigh Down has taught is for me to listen to my body. And I love the quote that Adam said that Gwen, like when your stomach's growling, that's God talking to you. And that's mind blowing. I'd never even thought about that ever before I heard Gwen say that. I was just like, oh man, that's cool. That is God's signal. He's telling me it's okay for you to eat. As a matter of fact, I want you to eat. Unless you're in a fast or something you feel like God's called you to, I want you to eat. But then I know my body now where I know before I even feel my personal, and then Gwen says, stop when you're politely full. But I know at this point in time, as many classes as I've taken, the age I am, that I'm a man and all that, I know when I've had enough. Even if my stomach is not saying it feels it, I know when to stop. And that's the cool thing too, because then if you stop, even before you feel that full, you stop, you get busy doing other things, serving God's kingdom, helping people out, the hunger's gone.
Yeah.
And Gwen teaches that same thing. It's just like, don't be idle, because that's the worst thing to do is be idle. And so now in order, I keep my weight off just by doing those same things. I still apply the principles. They've never gone away. The things that I remembered have never gone away. So Regina and I, when we go to restaurants, always will split a meal. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's never a time that we don't. I mean, we just don't. And matter of fact, all the friends that we go with do too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the company you keep, obviously, is very beneficial too. So we do that. I rarely snack between meals. Rarely. I mean, when I say rarely, if I know that, and Gwen teaches this, if you're 3 hours away from a meal and you feel a little bit of a growl, I'm talking little, like, I may have a couple of crackers or something. And that in and of itself is enough to hold you. It's enough to hold you over until your mealtime. That reminds a couple of things that quotes I hang on to. I heard them and I've never forgotten them. And I've said it before many times from the stage and to other people in private settings. But two things that I always remember that Gwen has said, well, three that are powerful. One is, it's, about that you fall in love with what you focus on. I mean, Weigh Down basic, and you fall in love with what you focus on. The second thing is think about how little you can get by on, rather how much you can get away with, rather than push the limits. Just cut it back. And if you're satisfied with less than half of your meal, then just eat that, especially if you have weight to lose. Gwen always says that. If you have weight to lose, then you can cut way back. And if you're a man, and I know I've talked with all you guys about this before, if you're a man who needs to lose weight and you set your mind on it and being in the Spirit and having the spirit of self-control, one of the fruits of the Spirit, you can lose weight fast. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that men cannot lose weight fast. There's not. And it'll come off quick. So those are the two things. And then the other thing that I remember Gwen saying, and this is just another teaching that she's written about the history of the love of God, is about disappointing God is the worst feeling in the world. Mm-hmm. And so when you combine those, and I know in my heart, because what Gwen has taught, what I've learned here through Weigh Down, I know in my heart how much I should eat and what's right, what the boundaries. God is not cruel. He clearly establishes the boundaries of how much you can eat and when, clearly. And so, if I know if I go outside of that, then I've disappointed him. And that to me is a crushing feeling in my heart. If I've done something outside, specifically, it's like a parent who's told a child, don't do that or don't touch that, and the child does it willfully, and they do it knowing the parent doesn't want them to, and then they feel sorry and they start crying. I mean, that's kind of the feeling that you get when you know that you disappointed God. So, it is life changing. It truly is, and that's not just something that we all say and all that. It is. It's life changing. And if you put these principles into practice, what Gwen teaches, all of us personally guarantee you, and all the men that were up here before, personally guarantee you that it'll work.
Yeah.
It'll work because it is, as Gwen said, you're taking your relationship off of everything else in the world and it's going up to God. And when that happens, then he honors that. He honors those who love him. He honors those who love him. And when you're going to lay that down, and it's going to totally change your life. And everybody can do this. Every single person in the world can do this. And you guys have had your weight off for many, many years. Adam has had his weight off now for almost 10 years. All these other men that are up here, many years. But when you set your mind, Gwen talks about that. She's got a teaching about setting your mind. When you set your mind on, I'm gonna please God above all things. And this is, before Weigh Down, I never even thought about pleasing him with my food or my eating or anything like that. But now that you do, he honors it. And I mean, it's an experiential thing. That's what we all would say. I mean, you can sit there and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and we will, and we can, but until you really put it into practice and start doing it, it's the old saying about success breeds success, and you'll be motivated, you'll be charged, that you've got that spirit inside of you that when you start laying down the food and God answers those prayers, and he does better than this, and he does better than that. Like Gwen talking about, God, can you do better, make me feel better than Rocky Road ice cream? He can.
No question.
He does. And when that happens, then it builds your faith and your trust in God. And as oh gosh, I mean, there's so many things. We could stay up here all night and talk about things that Gwen has mentioned. But another thing that I remember her talking about is when you go outside the boundaries of hunger and fullness, you're actually telling God you don't trust him to take care of you.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to provide for you. So you've told him he's not good enough, that he's not taking care of you. And those are the kind of things that when you hear that and that really gets down into your heart, you'll change. Yeah. And I mean, it'll be long lasting and permanent. And we all up here are forever grateful,
Amen.
And as we go just through, the last few minutes here, maybe a word from everyone one more time. God is so wonderfully ironic. Every man in here who's been changed by this message, and it's all of us, it's so ironic. Every one of us would get up here and say that we've learned how to become better men, better husbands, better fathers, inside God's boundaries, not greedy, not overdoing this, overdoing that. We've learned how to be godly men from a godly woman. Mm-hmm. How wonderfully ironic that is of God. And men, especially American men, tend to be prideful. We tend to think we're do whatever we want, and we're free to do this and we're free to do that, and God's looking for the humble. And Gwen reminds us that it's humility to consider others better than yourself. It's humility to consider, I don't want to pass down what I've been messing around with to my kids, what I want to watch my kid doing what I just did. Wow, what a visual that is. A couple more visual cues that Gwen's taught us, especially, again, for those who are new. Before you go loading up that plate of whatever it is, or that second helping of whatever, just remember that Gwen says your stomach's roughly, give or take, the size of a fist. So really, you're going to put all that in that? Really? I mean, I know it stretches a little bit and go back and forth, but no, picture that. Am I really going to do that and force that into that? What's it going to make this look like and feel like? Another thing that I was reminded of as Kent was talking, that Gwen talks about when you said that you're telling God that he can't take care of you if you go outside the boundaries. I love how Gwen said, just stop halfway through it. Stop. The food will be there tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It's not disappearing overnight. And in fact, to further that point, you're going to see savings on your food bill because you're gonna eat over 2 days what you used to eat over 1 day. Or for maybe a lot of you who have had a lot of weight to lose, maybe you could eat a week's worth in 1 day. And you're gonna see improvements in every single area. Quick personal testimony. My kind of yo-yoing started out when I was probably going into middle school. That whole transition of going from elementary school to middle school, and the kids get meaner and crueler, and the insults are more biting, and I was a chubby kid, a chubby young teenager. They tried to soften the blow when my mom would take me shopping for jeans, and they called the size I would wear husky. I know a lot of guys probably wore husky jeans when we were that size. That was just trying to gloss over the fact that you need to lose weight. Just chubby. It is what it is. It is what it is. And then also just kind of coming up through the 80s, my teenage years were then, and then college in the late 80s, early 90s. And at that time, if you remember, Kent talked about cabbage soup, and there's cleanses, and there's every kind of thing under the sun. At that time, the big thing, at least for people my age at the time, 18 to 22, was counting fat grams. You remember that craze? Yeah, I remember counting, looking at the school menu, and if it had low fat grams, I would shovel platefuls of it because it only had 5 fat grams. Never mind that I just consumed 750 calories, but it's not about counting calories either. It's about amounts. Another tip Gwen says, if you've always got to have something in your mouth, if your mouth is just kind of running your whole body, that's a sign that you're maybe hooked on something you shouldn't be hooked on. So again, wonderful tips from Gwen. Another one, and I think the men especially will identify with this, although I'm sure many ladies as well. One of the things that first hit me that I learned from Gwen, and my exposure was strongholds. I would say exodus from strongholds. Obviously start with the basics, but men, if you can get your hands on that strongholds material as quick as you can, and you've heard a lot of people talk about it in their testimony before, unless you're new, but we'll tell you now. In the back of that Strongholds workbook, there's a list of addictions, sins, idols, strongholds, things that are standing between you and God. And every one of us has had the experience of jaws dropping to the floor when you look through that list in the back of the Exodus from Strongholds workbook at the things that can come between you and God. And as you start checking off the things that, yeah, I'm that. So God really cares about that and that and that. And you get to the point where, kind of to your point, Kent, where you understand, oh my word, I'm a church guy. Like I've been going to church my whole life. I thought I was good with God, but he cares about that, and that. And it just really humbles you, and it brings you to tears when you realize, I didn't even know that was an idol. Case in point, growing up in the South, you love sports, at least here in America. You grew up to love sports, especially if you're a guy. I was a gym rat, played basketball all the time. And it used to, I remember my favorite teams, I was so emotionally invested in the outcome of that football game or that basketball game or whatever that competition was, because I was just raised to love sports to the point where it would literally affect my heart rate. It would literally, men, you know what I'm talking about. When your Green Bay Packers lose, you're gonna wanna take the next day off work. You're gonna drown your sorrows in that or that. And whatever it may be, for a lot of guys, it's sports. And so very early on, really about the same time that Gwen identified, or through following the Strongholds program, finding out that I was greedy for food as I was carrying 30, 35 extra pounds, right at the same time it hit me the thing about sports. As she was describing, anything that makes you more emotionally invested, anything that you pour yourself more into than the thought of even seeing God's face, means you probably need to lay it down. And so I remember just training my mind to do that, looking at the box scores less and less. My favorite basketball team would make me nervous come playoff time. I couldn't stand it if they lost a game. I literally was in a bad mood for a day. And I know a lot of you know what that feels like. But I remember a few months into this and really starting to get that nailed down and realizing I was emotionally, passionately more invested in sports than I was God or pleasing God or taking care of my wife or my children. And I remember the first time after having been through this for a few months, and I was out mowing the grass, and by the time I finished, I went inside and I realized that I had not even thought about, I had totally missed my favorite basketball team's playoff game, and I remember the feeling of not caring whether they won or lost. That was like the blind man seeing moment for me. I can do this, something I've invested my entire life in. If I put the principles of not going outside of God's boundaries, of eating within hunger and fullness, of spending within whatever limits God has for you, of not letting your eyes look to the right or the left, that can work for sports too. And it was such a freeing feeling. You literally feel like you can fly as you overcome those. So it just comes down to making that choice to do it. We're all up here to tell you that not only can it be done, kind of to your point, it has to be done. Mm-hmm. It has to be done. What do you want your wife to think of you? What do you want your kids to see? But even more than all that, if that helps you with the visual picture, and Gwen would be up here and she would say, yeah, I mean, you want to pass down the right things to those, your loved ones. But more than that, God sees it all. If God sees it all, and you really want a relationship with God, and you're claiming a relationship with God, then yeah, it starts with the fact that your stomach's about that small, and you can push away. You can sip between bites, another tip from Gwen, so that you don't just shovel food in your mouth so fast that you can't even feel it going down your stomach. You sip between bites. Try diet drinks instead of sugary drinks. That'll help you find hunger. We could go on and on and on with tips, but we're here to tell you as men that we need this. We don't just like it. We don't just think it's pretty good. We don't just look at our wives doing it and say, yeah, that's good for you. I'll check it out when I'm ready. No, we're here to tell you men, brothers, men we don't even know yet out there. You're hearing this for a reason. You're on this tonight for a reason. God's called you to this for a reason, and you can do it. And like Ted said at the beginning, there are classes going right now. Online, doesn't matter where you live, you can take that. Yeah. We're all here to testify that we're changed men and have happy families and are at a right weight, even as we get older. That's no excuse either. So there's hope. Yeah. There's hope. If you saw those 7 men, these 4 men, and if we passed the mic around the room, you'd think, there's hope. I really can do this. It doesn't take anyone special to do this. It just takes you making a choice, and then God opens your eyes, and all of a sudden you see everything that you've been doing. You didn't realize you were hurting God. God comes back in and he says, you know what? I forgive you. Now we're going to stay on the straight and narrow going forward. And we're not going to veer to the right or the left. We're not going to outside of his boundaries. So again, an honor to testify to you tonight. We proclaim through, as Kent was saying, experiential testing it out of ourselves, that this works and it cures everything. But start with the basics to get your feet wet, and you won't want to stop. Amen. If you really do it, you won't want to stop. So I guess maybe Ted, final words.
Yes, that's awesome. I literally can relate to everything that you guys were saying and just the points and the keys, but I love when Gwen will send out a tweet and say, like, the greatest gift is the ability to wake up and change. You know, you can start a day and you can change. And I will tell you that I did not have a weight problem when I was younger, but I got one in college. Just a horrific greed in every area of my life, and it just kept growing. But when I got out, not even realizing what Gwen teaches, making that connection between food and greed, that even the diets I chose were so that I can keep being greedy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna do Atkins because I could just shovel all this meat into my body because I'll lose weight. And it's like, that's the most horrific thing in the world. I mean, honestly, just there is like a short-term effect of weight loss, but what it did to my body was not natural. And so it's just, but the whole point was that when I heard, oh, you can eat all the meat, you can eat all that, just, lay off the carbs and the bread. And I'm like, oh, I can eat a bunch of stuff that I like. You know what I mean? Like it was so greedy. David with the fat grams, I'm dying laughing because that was the worst thing ever. I tried that too, and the fat-free, the Snackwell hot dogs and the Snackwell cookies, and they replaced the sugar with, like Gwen's always like, hay and styrofoam, and it's horrible. You can try to make yourself and convince yourself that fat-free blue cheese dressing is good, but you're lying to yourself. It's horrible. It is horrible. And so, but you're doing it so you can keep shoveling food into your body. And it is a prison. You don't even realize you're in prison, that you're addicted to this stuff. You're completely greedy for this. And then Gwen comes in here and goes, guys, you can change. And not just change your behavior in the sense of like, I'm gonna white knuckle it right now, and I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna make sure that I drop that weight. But your heart literally completely changes towards the food. And that's what we're all up here saying, is that you look at it completely different. And the reason why we look at it now and go, that's a tremendous amount of food, where 20 years ago, I would have been like, thanks for the appetizer, where's the main dish, you know? And splitting dishes was not something I ever considered. You know, it was like, oh, you want some? Oh, waiter, you know, let's get another plate over. And so, because you just didn't do that. But when Gwen is in there with you on the video, identifying that you have this greed and that you already have the ability to love, you just have to transfer that love over to God. And this is how you find God's signals, and this is how he's communicating with you. And one of the biggest ones for me was a way of escape. Never heard of that concept in my life. Like if I drop something, or if something slips off the plate, or a fly lands on it, please, I would have been like, is anybody looking? You know, like, I mean, you just had greed in your heart, you know? You just didn't care about that stuff. And all of a sudden, Gwen's in there like, God is so personal. He's reaching down from the heavens, telling you, I'm trying to help you right now. Listen to me. And all of a sudden, you're cut to the heart. You're totally convicted. You're talking about, having the CDs on and the homework. And Gwen's talking about that replacement. So you're in there replacing it with, like David's saying, the sports. I had the same experience with the sports. It used to drive me crazy. I would get angry. I'd almost have fistfights over professional sports. Just crazy, ridiculous things, and not caring about it, because Gwen's in there teaching us how to transfer those loves. And there's nothing wrong with football game, baseball game, all that kind of stuff. But to David's point, we were like, there was something wrong with our heart, how much there was an attachment to it. And the food was the same way. And then all of a sudden, you go by day doing this class, and she's in there teaching you how she's trying to connect to you personally, and how God is so personal to, no, don't do this, and let me tell you when to stop, and let me tell you when to go, and he's trying to help you from the heavens. And in the process, he's giving back good foods that you thought were forbidden forever. And then she's making God so personal in there by going, guys, God loves you. He made the brownie. He made this. He wants you to enjoy it, but he wants you to do it within his boundaries, and his boundaries are so beautiful. And so then next thing you know, you look up and your hearts are completely different. It's just so different. How you look at everything changes. You have a whole new set of glasses on, and food looks completely different to you. It turns into fuel that's there to help you do the will of God. And you feel so much better. Oh my goodness, you lose some weight, and you wait on God's boundaries. And we can all remember those business lunches and stuff where you would overdo it and come back and then drag for the next 4 hours in the office, or 5 hours. You're like, who wants to go back to that? So anyway, but we've all been there, and we've all had that greed. We all had that heart that thought we could never actually change. We've all been around people who said they quit smoking, and 10 years later, they would still say, oh, I still would love one. You know what I mean? You hear people around you. I grew up hearing that all the time. But this is different. People don't want it anymore. They're like, the thought of it is like, oh no, oh God, there's nothing about it that's attractive anymore. There's nothing about excessive food that is a desire for any of us anymore. And so the heart has completely changed, but God used these incredible words that he gave to Gwen. She had incredible word pictures and ways to make us communicate and connect with God. Then God, through Gwen, sets up this amazing class. Then you have the workbook, because you need it. What are you gonna do? As Gwen said, what are you gonna do at 10 o'clock at night when nobody's there? What are you gonna do? You need help. We all needed help. And so you heard practically some of the best tips that have ever been put on paperback, but as David said, it's not the same as when Gwen's on there doing it. So you gotta get in a class. Mm-hmm. Jump in that workbook, jump in the additional lessons. You'll notice in the workbook that there'll be additional teachings, supplemental encouragement for you to jump into. But then when you have these tips coming out on Instagram, on Twitter, and then you have a Facebook group, you got 10,000 6,000 people. I promise you, go in there tonight and you will scroll the testimonies and the before and afters. And really, what does it do? It just encourages you, knowing that you can do it, that you're not some anomaly that can't change, that can't be like them. All of us at one point in our heads thought, we're never gonna lose weight. This is just the way we're gonna be for the rest of our life. All of our families, we're big, like David said, husky, but it's not true. It's not true. That's a lie. And Gwen Shamblin's been given the greatest gift of pointing out lies from Satan and replacing it with the truth from God. And so you found the right place.
Mm-hmm.
You're home. I feel like all of us would tell you to jump into class. Any one of us would take a phone call from you, as would anybody in this building. It's our life now. Our life is to see the next person get this relationship with God and then pass it on to their kids and their friends. And there's no greater joy than seeing a family completely put back together the way God intended, and for everyone to be set free physically and spiritually. So you're in the right place. We're very glad that you joined us tonight. And I don't know, any last final charges from the group?
No, that was well said. Amen to all of that. I think if there are just a couple things that jumped out in my mind, and I'll be very brief. So if there's anybody out there that thinks they can't change, I would just challenge them to think about what are you waking up to? Where's your focus? Are you waking up every morning and the first thing you think about is breakfast, or the first thing you think about is turning on the TV, just to try something different? Try something different. Try getting on your knees. Try praying out to God. Try, jumping in a class, getting on Facebook. Just get out of your normal routine and try something different. Try this. You'll spend a lot of money on a gym membership, and you'll suffer through running, and you'll spend money on other diets, and you'll try everything else. But if you're really wanting a permanent change, try this.
Amen.
Amen.
All right.
I'll just say real quickly what you had said, Ted, about getting involved in the class. Every single person that I know personally that you saw some of the videos in the introductory, some of those testimonies in the introductory video about how people have lost 100 plus pounds. Or even Terrell Cohen up here lost over 100 pounds. They did it by being in a class. And as you already said, doing the homework, applying it, the truth cards that come along with some of the older classes. Now, all access, everything's at your fingertip for $24.99 a month. I mean, if you're married, that's less than you would spend on a meal out with your wife, right? I mean, $24.99 a month, and everything is available at your fingertips. I would still encourage being involved in a class, at least an online one where you're doing that together with people, especially if you're new or you're returning. Get back involved, because there is a great deal of encouragement, as you said, in support, where people they've succeeded at it. That's where the encouragement is. And you can say, what did you do? This is what I did. What would you have done different? And you'll see the changes. You'll be amazed. And as we all know, not only for us, but for our families and the next generations coming up, they're not going to have to worry with the things that we did before.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very hopeful.
Well, 2018 is going to be the year for you. You've heard Gwen say it. She's been tweeting it. The Weigh Down staff's ready to get in there and help you. What do you do now? Like, wow, that was a lot. Make tonight, day one. Day one, and then don't stop. Day one, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Say on day 7 you have, slipped up there, and okay, what does Gwen say? Hit the restart button. You can do it. You're awake again. You're alive the next day. It's another chance. But make today day one. Understand there's a time and a place for why you've been exposed to this on a Wednesday night at the beginning of January 2018. And it's God trying to help you have a better life. So we are excited about helping you guys. Really excited about having Gwen back here next week. Also note that our Saturday worship assemblies, 9 a.m. Central Time, are open to everybody. Just log in and join us on Saturday. And then again, back here next Wednesday, where Gwen will be back, and she'll be explaining the more myriad of ways that you can, through this ministry, that you can find out how you too can overcome.
Amen.
Amen.
be seen for eternity with our God and His Son Jesus. Everything is peaceful and lightness, happy always doing His